Sister Dr. Molly Abraham, and our teacher coordinators, Dr. Christu Das, Miss Megha Jacob, Miss Reshma Jose, and Miss Alicia George with us today. I would also like to welcome all other faculty members and my fellow friends here today. Before any further ado, let us begin our program by seeking the benign blessings of the Almighty with a prayer song by Chanel Maria Quintal, our second year student.
There shall be showers of blessing. This is the promise of love. There shall be seasons refreshing, sent from the Savior above. Showers of blessing, showers of blessing we need. Message of channels of flowing, before the showers begin. There shall be showers of blessing, precious reviving again. Over the hills and the valleys, sound of abundance of rain. Showers of blessing, showers of blessing we need. Message of journeys unfolding, before the showers begin. There shall be showers of blessing, oh that today they may fall. Blessed be the confessing, now as on Jesus we call. Showers of blessing, showers of blessing we need. Message of journeys unfolding, before the showers begin. There shall be showers of blessing, if we will trust and obey. There shall be seasons refreshing, if we let God have His way. Showers of blessing, showers of blessing we need. Message of journeys unfolding, before the showers begin.
Thank you for this beautiful hymn. I would now invite Rosa Rose Pallan, our second year student, to introduce the speaker, Mr. George Devasi.
Vanessa, Rosa is not here. Can one of you instead introduce the speaker, please?
Joanna?
Joanna?
Yes, sister. So our resource person for the day is Mr. George, and George Devasi is a former international coordinator of GC Youth Movement, which is an international Catholic movement spread across 30 countries. He did his MBA from Christ University, Bangalore, and Catholic University, Thailand. He worked as a manager in a multinational company. At present, he has an international travel and tours business of his own. He is also an international speaker and has a good rapport with youth and college students. We welcome Mr. George Devasi for today's event. And now we'll be proceeding to the talk show, Is Being Christian Fun? Hi, Helga. It's been a long time since we met.
Hi, Joanna. It's been really a long time. So, how are you?
I'm doing fine, yeah. Really, like I've completely lost track with people. This lockdown has been so long. I've met friends. Yeah, how are you?
George Via, can you just unmute yourself? Mute yourself. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm good. I'm really good. So, you know what? I existed in the lockdown just because of the newly purchased Netflix subscription that I had. A lot of good TV series, movies,
Mm-hmm.
and also Vampire Diaries. I really loved it.
That's really great. Yeah, please add me to your Netflix benefactors, bro. Please.
Sure, I can do that. But yeah, again, I was thinking a lot these days about many things.
Yeah.
And you know what? I was just thinking many things happened. Each month there was some or the other bad news. And I was really sad hearing all of that. So, every month, one bad news, one death of a family relative or something. And it was really sad. So I was just thinking, if God really existed, um, won't he have done something about all of this? Don't you think that he did not do anything? I mean, does he even exist?
Well, my perspective is totally different on that because it's like this lockdown has really helped me to grow closer to God and have a real bond with Him. It's like I've been able to do personal prayers, read Bible. It's like it's totally different when you have a relationship with God, and it's really beautiful the way he has especially also the time that I had with my family. I could bond with my family in the school days. We were not able to like spend much time with the family, be with them, but this lockdown has been a blessing in disguise, I would say. Yeah, bad things have happened, I accept that, but I guess God has a greater plan than this. He has something more beautiful planned for each one of us, and once God is there in our lives, it's so much more easier. It's just
Wait,
beautiful.
wait, Joanna. This is really shocking coming from you because I know you since so much of time. This is really surprising coming from you. So I don't want to believe in what you're saying because you are saying it. Yeah, I hope you get it.
Yes, I know. Okay, you know me, and yes, I too know you. It's difficult that telling it to you that okay, it's beautiful to have God in life and all. But I think George is here with us. He's more experienced than me, and of course, he would be knowing about this. So, George, could you tell us about what is the real experience or how you experienced God? And
So thank you, Joanna. I think a very valid discussion during the Corona times. Uh, even I think almost all young people are really confused. You know what's maybe happening, or maybe everybody's confused. So I just go back to my life. I was born and brought up in a very Catholic family, and I also had these questions to myself. You know, like where is God? Is God really there? And to be very frank, I was brought up in a very spiritual family. So I was taken to retreats. I would say I was taken to retreats. I was not going to retreats. I was taken at sometimes gunpoint to retreats. And if I look back into my childhood, I always had this question: where is God in my life? And I look back into my childhood. My childhood was a competition between average and below average. Like I was not a very happening person in school, and I used to think that does life really have some meaning? And that made me go again and again into thinking that maybe I was not created by a God who really loves me. And this kind of was constantly pondering in my life. You know, I was a migrant. I don't know how many of you are Malayalis. I don't know, but I was a migrant Malayali. I know many of you might be migrants to Delhi, and I was just like you, a very typical childhood of a migrant. in school was very challenging, and I was not good at studies at that point of time. Obviously, I ended up as the topper of my university finally. But then, as a kid, I was very unique. I remember I used to get grades out of 100, and I used to get 35, 34 and a half converted to 35. My dad used to look at my report card and ask me, how can you be so consistent? There's not even a 36, anywhere. And I used to say, that's me. I don't know if you've gone through that struggle. I used to struggle. And as a kid, I don't know, especially as a migrant kid, you're always compared. The aunties are always comparing you with the other kids who are maybe trying to do something great. Even some of the situations were very embarrassing. Like after the results were out, I was, there was this one auntie who used to live at the corner of my colony, who was always wanting to know my grades. And among all these funny situations, I was always asking myself, is there anything special about me? Am I like created for something special, or am I just going to be like another number? I was born, I was brought up, then I go to college, and then go to, and then get a job, get married, have children, then they have children, then they kick me out of the house, go to an old age home and die. So is that the purpose of my life? And that's when I was never looking for the answers at the right place. I don't know about you guys, but I was always going and asking my friends for an answer. And as you know, the friends have always a negative answer about God. I remember that I used to go for retreats, and I used to not pray because I thought praying was not cool. If I prayed, I was kind of like a loser kind of thing. So I used to rebel to anything that is spiritual to prove a point that I was cool. I don't know how that makes sense, but I was like that. I used to go to retreats, and I was like a superhero during retreats, because during the breaks, I was mimicking the speaker. I hope you are not doing that with me now at this point of time. I wouldn't mind if some of you could switch on your videos, because I don't know, maybe just if you have any talent like that. I used to have, mimic the speaker, and I used to have an audience during the break. I know some of the, till I changed, if you ask me, my life changed when I went to one of these retreats where the speaker told me a very simple thing. He said, give God a chance. And I don't know why he was so bothered about me. There was a whole crowd of 300 young people, and he would just target me. He would come to me and say, give God a chance, give God a chance. And I was like, why me? There's so many people around me, young people. And I remember that adoration. I was praying, and I said, God, I have given a chance to everything in my life. I think I should give you a chance. Well, my relationship with God till that day was more like a business deal. Yeah, I used to, we had this Sacred Heart image in my house, and every day before I leave my house, I used to upload requests. I need to get good grades. My dad needs to understand me, and I don't know about you. Me and my parents, there was a big generational gap. They were brought up in a very remote, they were brought up in Kerala, and I was brought up somewhere else. So it was like, by the time I was a teenager, there were a lot of debates, and some of these debates were like hectic debates. Well, my dad used to always win. If you have Malayali fathers, they win. So I remember the first time I can just give you an example. When I went to college, I asked for my dad for a bike. And then my dad started telling me, when he was in the village, he had cows, buffaloes, and the goat that he used to own. And if he had to go to school, he used to have only 2 trousers and 1 shirt. And how dare I ask for a bike? So finally the debate ended with a compromise. I telling him that, okay, then you buy me a cow. I will go on that to the college. So this kind of, there was always kind of a misunderstanding between me and my parents and me and God. So till that day, I used to think that God was not somebody who really understood me. Actually, that was very stupid, because I would say that if there is somebody who understands you, is God. It's not your funny friend sitting next to you, or any of those people. So that day, during that adoration, I said, God, if you exist, please, I would like to give you a chance. And nothing great happened. To be very frank, some of us think that when you pray to God, something should happen. And that's where we make a business deal. So I was having a business relation with God. Give me this and I give you a rosary. And some of the funny negotiations I used to do with God, I remember my parents were very charismatic, and I used to hate that. At that point of time, they were saying hallelujah and praise the Lord and all these things. And I was like totally, I don't know what was happening. And some of these great preachers used to come to my house to stay. And I still remember making deals with God. It was a business relation. Some of these great preachers used to come to my house, and I used to hide. And I used to pray to God, God, do not reveal, because I was told that they get messages, about me. And my parents used to say, pray over him and find out what he's been doing. So I still remember going for dinners, with shivers, and I used to be praying, Lord, do not reveal, I will give you a rosary. Lord, do not reveal, I will be attentive in the mass next time. And sometimes the priest who is at the table used to say, George. And I used to be like, oh, gone. Yeah. God is going to maybe I was expecting the next is, George, last Thursday, what you have been. And my parents were waiting, information, let's so I used to pray like that. So but till that day, at that adoration, my relationship with God was like a business. And that day during the adoration, I told God that no more business. I know that you are the only one who can help me, and I want to give you a chance. And that adoration, I can still remember. Nothing great happened. Not that God suddenly came and said, George, now you are going to be a holy man. Nothing like that. I couldn't even hear God, to be very frank. But after that adoration, I had peace. A peace that nobody had ever given me. I was at peace with myself. I was happy with who I am. I stopped becoming a wannabe somebody, and wanna be the topper of my class, wanna be the guy who has a lot of girlfriends, wanna be the great basketball player in my class. No, I can remember the great thing that happened once I accepted God was the fact that I started becoming me. I don't know how many of you have that experience. I started becoming me. I was not afraid of the aunties anymore who were asking my grades. I was not scared of those guys who were ruining their life, drinking and smoking. After that adoration, I started a journey of accepting a relation with God that is me. So from that day onwards, I would say, Joanna and Helena, I would say all the young people who are here, I know you guys are really young and smart. If many people give their testimonies where they were sick and they were healed and they accepted God and great thing happened. But if you ask me, I accepted God because of common sense. I would say it's common sense. And you were talking about coronavirus, the COVID-19 situation. And one youngster, he came up to me and he asked me, George, where is God during the pandemic? I said, I see only God. The scientists have given up. Those great intelligent people, all the first world countries that they thought that they were, they were invincible, have been taken over by a small virus we cannot see. I would say God makes sense. Yeah. If you have common sense, you will accept God. And I would say that's the simplest and the most powerful thing we can do in our life.
That's really great, George. It's actually this, what your testimony reminds me of this song. It's like, our God is a great big God and he holds us in his hand. Maybe I'll just bring my guitar and we can sing it together.
Yeah, I'm very happy, Joanna, you can sing. About my music career, I'm a great musician, by the way. I was talking about how I was, yeah. So my music career started when I was in grade 4. When my teachers asked me to sing the national anthem. And after I sang, in a crowd, my music teacher called me and she said, George, I think you don't need practice. You need to go and play, you need to take a break. And I went and started playing basketball and ended up as a state level basketball player. But the day I realized that I can never sing. So all those who can sing, I know I really, Joanna, why not?
This small song, it's like.
Wow, Joanna. And wow, George. I mean, okay, it's about giving God a chance, right? So, but still, I have a lot of doubts. Like, for example, I have this very strong feeling that if I give God a chance, really, all of my freedom is just going to go away. This is what I really think. Isn't this true?
It's actually the actual opposite of what you're actually saying, because you trust me, once you experience the freedom that you get when you get closer to God, you won't want anything else. And it's like, you remember that dialogue from DDLG, it's like, Ja Simran Ja, ji le apni zindagi. And what you see, the freedom that Simran experienced in being able to choose the bridegroom for choice, that freedom is nothing compared to the freedom that we receive when we are closer to God and we have that relationship with God.
What are you even saying? Does that even make sense? Okay, forget that. I was from a convent school, and you know what it is famous for? Rules. I had a lot of rules. It was so difficult, trust me. We had to have trimmed nails, braided hair, neat white shoes. It had to be so white that if it is a little bit off white, they would throw you out of the assembly. And then we had all kinds of rules, and it was so difficult. Finally, I am done with school. Now I am getting to come to college and have a lot of fun, choose everything according to what I want, travel to as many places as I want, choose to eat momos all the day. I can literally do everything that I want, all right now. But I feel that if I really give God a chance and like go in the path of faith, maybe मेरे freedom का तो the end होने वाला है. This is what I feel.
Okay.
Relatable. Yeah.
Yeah, George, I guess you can say something about this.
Well, I don't know about Simran and momos here, but I don't know. But I would refrain to comment on all those things. But regarding freedom, yes, I feel that there is a very wrong definition in the world today about freedom. Well, many young people think that freedom is about doing whatever you want. Yeah. And that is actually a very wrong definition, because doing whatever you want is not freedom. Freedom is doing what is good for you. Yeah. That is true freedom. And who knows what is good for you? See, I know, well, I have seen a lot of young people who have this misuse of this definition called freedom. In my college also, there were young people who was like, oh, I'm free so I can drink. And the whole night they drink and next day hangover. I don't know if hangover is freedom. Yeah. I had some of my friends, I know, I'll tell you some interesting stuff. I was, I joined college, and I was, by the way, my first year, I was the president of ICAF in my, in my class, by the way. So I understand this is ICAF. So I remember we started a small prayer meeting and things like that. We were active with these youth groups and all. So once I was walking on the street and my seniors, see all these free guys, yo boys, yeah. So they came around me and they were like pushing me around and saying, be a man, yeah. What is all this? If you are a man, can you drink alcohol? And I don't know. If you come to Kerala, you will see, yeah, there are people who drink alcohol, and if you see them, they are neither man nor woman. Yeah, they are. Here we call them palm, like we call them snakes. So once they drink, they are well, whatever. So this young man, he's saying that I am alcoholic and I am free. So I said, I'm sorry, brother, I don't think I can do that. Then the other guy, he had a cigarette in his hand, he was smoking and he was making those circles and he was like asking me, can you? So I thought like it was like a circle of his life. Yeah, he was just sending it out. And I don't know what was so much freedom about it. He looked like a chimney to me. So I said, I don't think I can do that. I don't know how much does a cigarette cost now, but during those days, it was like 2 to 3 rupees and any fool can smoke. So there is nothing great about smoking. And he was going on and all these things. And well, I just asked them, if you have guts, come for a prayer meeting every week. Yeah, that's freedom. If you want to be, be yourself without all these addictions, that's freedom. Enjoy your life without a substance, that is freedom. So this definition of freedom is absolutely misunderstood. Real freedom is to be who you are, and to be who you are, you need to go to who made you. And if you need to go to who made you, you need to go to God. Yeah, you need to go to the person who made you. Only then you can be free. So it's like it's really. And I had some of my friends who, there was one guy I can remember in college. This guy on this bike, and well, I was from a middle class family, so I used to walk to college. And this guy had this, and every week he had a different girlfriend behind his bike. Yeah, I don't know what is so freedom about that. And this, I don't know, some of these girls had the same look, like as if they were sitting on Mount Everest or something like that. And I remember walking to college, and some of my friends, they would, when this guy, and he would come full speed and brake, and he would look at us and say, yeah. And then once he goes, the other guys were like, oh, lucky man. And I used to think, is that freedom? Having 4 girlfriends, is that freedom? I don't know, once you get married, you would understand. Managing one itself is quite a challenge. Yeah. So I don't know where these young people get these stupid definitions of freedom. Yeah. The true freedom is to be happy the way you are. Yeah. The true freedom is to be happy with what you have. Some of them, they have iPhone 6, they want 7. They have 7, they want 8. They are not happy with what are they free? And young people do worse things. I'm a businessman now, and well, by God's grace, I do travel to a lot of, and I think Helena was saying traveling to countries, traveling to places. By God's grace, I have traveled to 55 countries. I have 8 passports done. Yeah, and I can tell you, traveling is not freedom. Traveling inside is freedom. I have seen a lot of, when I board a flight, I can see a lot of funny guys who are like, yay, now I am on a flight. And once it takes off, there is a turbulence. You should see, freedom is gone. Freedom about travel is gone. One turbulence. I was flying Malaysian Airlines to Australia last 2 years back. And Malaysian Airlines is used to, going into the water once in a while. So I took off, and there was this guy, he was, and a girl, I don't know, whatever they were, boyfriend or girlfriend. And they were like, oh, sweetie, I'm going to fly and all these things. And once the flight took off, there was turbulence. And this girl sitting next to me, she started looking at me, and I was just relaxed, sitting, and she's saying, sir, have you flown Malaysian Airlines before? I said, yeah. Don't worry, not all flights drown. But what will you do if it drowns? I said, I will drown happily. What else can I do? I am not an Olympic swimmer to swim to Australia. I am going to die, and I'm going to die happily. So that, after I said that, she was like, oh, you seem to be full of hope. Where do you get this hope? I said, the only person I get gives me hope is God. I don't have no hope in this pilot. He's also a human being. So, this kind of funny things about freedom, young people have. I had this unfortunate event of going to a pub once. Yeah, I was as a businessman, we get invited to pubs. I know Delhi also has some, and I know some of you girls, once you are in first year, second year, one of your seniors will say, hey, बहुत मजा आता है यार. And so I went there, and you should see, I don't know what is the definition of maza. I went into this pub, and you should see the loud voice, freedom, the sound over 65 decibels. If you have common sense, and if you have studied science, it's damaging your nervous system. That's not freedom. And then all these lights hitting your eyes, and you should see, and then I went in, and there was this girl who had was drinking and looked at me. Hey, are you free? I said, I don't know about you. I don't think you are free. And this guy on top of it, that dosha he's doing, and he's taking up good music and messing it up. And, and you should see, he was like malnutritioned. His headphones were bigger than him. Please understand, that's not freedom. And that guy was looking at me and like, yeah, come on. I said, Poda, what is that? I don't understand. That's freedom. That guy needed an ambulance. You understand? So I have a real concern about young people talking about freedom. Except give God a chance. I would say if you give God a chance, you will understand what is freedom. People do what, you look at the life of saints. They were free. Look at the life of saints. One saint, that the persecutors, they came and said, I'm going to crucify you. And he said, okay, upside down. There are, you see some of the lives of the saints, they were being put into hot oil, and they were burning, and they were smiling. They were saying, you can't do nothing to me. Yeah, I am free already. I know where I'm going. Yeah. If you have a destination, you can enjoy the journey. What about people who think death is a destination? We have a destination called heaven if you need to be free. I'm sorry to be a little emotional about this answer. And I hope, Mega Ma'am and Sister Molly would forgive me for my emotional outburst. But to be very frank, I get very, very disturbed when young people say that they are not free with God. Whom else can you be free with? Can you be free with your friends? I don't think so. I had a lot of friends who were they used to say they are ready to die for me, but they were so unhappy when my results came. And I did better than them. I don't know if you can be free. I don't know. I can be free with my parents for sure, but there is a generation gap, as I told you. Yeah. I don't know. I think the only person I can be free with when I wake up in the morning is God. The only person I can be free with when I'm studying is God. The only person I can be free with is God. That's freedom. I don't know if you agree, but I do believe that.
That's really cool, Bia. Like, basically, I enjoy being a Christian, and it's just really wonderful. Just open my eyes. It's a different perspective.
Yeah, that's really true. So true freedom is not about choosing anything, but about choosing the good, right? Makes complete sense. But again, now I want Joanna, you to tell me, how did your previous encounter take place? Because you were saying a lot of things previously, right? So did it all happen during the pandemic?
Yeah, I would like to know what happened to Joanna.
Okay. I would have never reached here by myself. It's like I started knowing God through my parents, of course, and later I came in contact with this movement called Jesus Youth, and there were so many other fellowship groups. Like, I had good friends, who actually helped me to grow in faith. And yeah, there were more people like George who actually guided me in my life, like showing me where to go and how to go, what is wrong, what is not right, and all those things. Means, I guess there is fellowship and all these things. George, maybe you can share some light on that. Like, how does all these things actually help? I won't be able to do much. Yeah.
Well, I would say that, a person is who is because of his surroundings. Yeah. And when we say surroundings, I would say friends. So I would say if you are a intelligent person, you would keep a good surrounding. You would keep good friends around you. So I would say ICAF, Jesus Youth, the parish, or whatever community that you can be in, you should be surrounded with friends who actually love you. And if your friends have to love you, they need to know what is love. Am I right? Yeah. Do you agree? How can somebody love you if he doesn't know what is love? For example, I see some of these guys and girls, they get into these funny relationships and they say they are in love. I doubt that. Like, there is this guy who is telling the girl that, I will bring the moon down for you. I don't think he's an astronaut by any chance to do that. That I don't know how much of definition of love there is there. Some of these girls, they say that I give my life to you. I don't know if that life really belongs to you, that you can suddenly meet somebody in college and say that now my life is yours. So if you ask me, you should be surrounded with good people, and good people are people who love you, and good people are people who know what is love. And the only people who know what is love is the people who know God, because God is love. Yeah. If God is love, what other definition can you? Love is patient and kind. Love is, if you read the Bible, I would say that the only person that you can see had a perfect definition of love is Jesus. He is the one who is the role model of love. Not all these Bollywood movies. These Bollywood movies are so stupid, really. There is a breeze and the girl is walking and there is a breeze and the hair is going, and so then now that is your life partner. Is that love? I don't know if that is love. There is suddenly, you see a guy suddenly at a supermarket or something, and he is there with his friends, and then you are there, and then you are looking, and suddenly you hit, and the biscuit, the packet falls down, and you both hold the packet together and you lift it up. Now that's love? No. That is supermarket. You understand? And that is somebody who has no body balance, and he left something, that something fell off from his hand. That is a body balance issue. So I can just tell you, be active in a Christian community. Yeah, be active. Now you're in college. When I was in college, I saw me and my classmates went in different directions. Some of my friends, they became very active, and they started becoming gangs, yeah, and groups. I don't know about you, but in my college there was a group called Smokers. So they were all like living chimneys. I don't know where they went with that. Yeah, I had another group of girls in college. They were known as Barbie dolls. I don't know why they call them Barbie dolls, but I believe that because they were in utter poverty and had very minimal clothes, they were walking around in that state of life, and there were a lot of boys who were running behind them. Like it was like Garden of Eden or something like that. I don't know what it was, but they were part of this group and they called themselves Barbie dolls. I don't know. There are some guys, they were Eagles. They called themselves Eagles. They had a gang called Eagles. And what is their hobby? Their hobby is they will sit around somewhere in the college. They will bully somebody, and then they will beat them. Then they will go and beat them. So they beat each other, and the hospitals are making a lot of money. You see, the doctors they are very kind to the doctors because it's because of them maybe most of the casualties running. I don't know. If you ask me, I totally recommend be part of a Christian youth activity. Dedicate your life for something that makes sense, something that has eternal value. You see, if I look back into my college life, I would say the best choice I made was to be becoming active in a youth group. Yeah, because that is the only things that has some eternal value, gives you some some personality that can make you successful. And some of these young people think that, to be successful, you need to be what? You need to be like a cheater. You need to be like somebody negative. No. If you are, I can say about myself, at least I am successful in my business because of Christian values. I am not successful because I cheat, because I take, steal money, or I bribe some government officials or anything like that. These are all lies. Satan is telling you all these lies so that you also sin. So, well, I would say I encourage you to be part of some active youth groups in your college. Yeah, that would be the wise choice to make. I hope, yeah.
Okay, Joanna, before you go like, wow, eye-opener, I'll just say that I am awestruck right now because I've been asking myself all of these questions since the first year of college, and I feel like they are getting answered right now. But still, I have a little bit more of a doubt. It is kind of about, getting close to God. But yeah, Joanna, what would you like to say anything before I move on with my excitement?
So it's like all of us usually have this phase of life, and all of us have questioned in some point of the life if God really existed. But it's slowly that I did understand the love the Father had for me, and it's really great to know that love and experience it. And I hope you to have it one day.
Helena, I did mute you because there was echo from your end.
So, yeah. Okay. So now I am really excited to, get closer to God. But I have this doubt. If I ever want to get closer to God, is that even possible? How is it possible? What do I do? Like, because I am really excited right now, hearing all of this. I want to build a relationship with God, but how do I get started? So, George, can you help me with that question?
So, well, it is the simplest thing to do in your life as a human being. It is easier than any other friendship to make. When you have to be you have to be friends with human beings. You need to understand them. You need to analyze them. You need to be worried if what they will do. But with God, He's just a perfect friend that you can have. And one wrong notion that we have is that we want results from day one. And I would say God is one person who likes to take a relationship slow and steady and forever. So if you ask me, prayer is one thing that can help you to start. Now, I know many of you are averse to prayer. Let me ask you, Helena, do you like praying?
Yeah, I do like praying, but it just...
Okay. Now, if I tell you that we are going to pray for the next 4 hours, what would you say?
No, I would not like to do that.
You say, prayer is something that you can do when you are stuck, when you have a problem. Yeah. So, that is a great trick of Satan. From our very childhood, somebody's told you that prayer is boring, which is not a fact, by the way. Somebody's told you that God is boring, church is boring, and that somebody, unfortunately, may be your friend. Yeah. Who himself has never prayed. I see young people so funny. They never prayed. They tell the other guy prayer is boring. You try. Yeah. I meet so many youngsters. They say, I am an atheist. I don't believe in God. Bible is wrong. So sometimes I ask them, have you read the Bible? No. Then how? Then how can you say? Somebody said, God does not exist. I said, have you tried to have a relationship? Have you started? And if you look at I look at my life, I started praying every day morning. I just spend time with God. I just believe that God is there and I start talking to Him. And slowly He'll start talking to you. But don't expect God to talk to you like a human being. Yeah. Because God is not a human being. Please understand. Yeah. God will talk to you as God is. Yeah. So when we say Jesus really loves you, Jesus wants to have relationship. When you have love. There has to be relationship. And if you need to have a relationship, you need to spend time with that person. Some of us don't want to stay. How much time do you spend with God in the whole day? Okay, I don't know. Let me ask a controversial question. Yeah, I hope I'm okay to ask this. Megha ma'am, am I okay allowed to ask this question? If you allow me, yeah, it's just a very normal question. Yeah, I'm asking. Okay, I'll ask Joanna. Yeah, to be very safe. Joanna, you can unmute. Don't be scared. Yeah, it's a very simple question. Or I should ask Rosa. Yeah, Rosa. I see Rosa there. Yeah, Rosa. I think Joanna, I spare you for today. Rosa, can I ask?
Yes. Yes.
So Rosa, if you, according to you, if two people need to have a relationship, yeah, what is the basic requirements?
They need to spend time with each other, like communicate with each other.
Okay, so we start with common sense. Number one, they need to know who the other person is. Yeah, you can't have a relationship with a person you don't know. So you need to know. If you need to know, you need to read the Bible. That's the only place where you can. So first, know about God. Yeah. If you go to your catechism classes, what is the first? Why did God create man? To know him, to love him, to serve him. But if you want to know him, you need to spend time with the person you want to know. Yeah. Many young people, they don't spend time during prayer. I've seen some people go for mass. They are like, they attend mass with their spinal cord. They sit, they stand, during the homily, they sleep. Okay. And they suddenly wake up during. I was so shocked. I saw one guy giving peace to the wall. You know, when there is peace be with you, he just gave peace to the wall. That's a wall. It's already very peaceful. So please understand, you know, to have a relationship with God, you need to start, number one, by knowing. To know, you need to spend time. Read the Bible. Don't be allergic to the Bible. Who told you Bible is boring? All the greatest trainers today, they are copying from the Bible. And we have this Bible in our house, we hide it. We put love letters into that and all kinds of things, whatever we want to hide there. In my house, there was this big Bible. The only time me and my brother used to take it is to beat each other. So you need to read the Bible. You need to spend some time in prayer. It's very important. Yeah. Okay. So good. I think give it a start. Okay. I'm sorry. Maybe we are running out of time. We could.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, George. This time was a really fruitful one for me. I'm sure that's the same with Joanna as well.
Yes, it was really good to have you. And,
Yes, we have 10 minutes left and we have some questions in the chat box that maybe we can discuss.
I guess maybe 5 minutes. Within 5 minutes, if we can just
Yeah,
go through
we
those questions.
have this question. Sir, as you said, God is love, Jesus is love. And if we are talking about Jesus, he better be an ocean of love. So if he's an ocean of love, then why is it that we don't feel it? Question from Soumya. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Soumya, it's a very good question. And in line with your question, I can just answer. We don't experience this ocean because we don't jump into it. You know, you cannot experience the ocean sitting on the shore. Yeah. You want to experience the ocean, you need to start walking into it. You need to start experiencing the water. You know, if you ask me, you need to start that journey into the ocean. And the deeper you get, this ocean, the great thing about this ocean is that the deeper you get, the more and more you understand how powerful this is. Yeah. So if it's an ocean, now feeling. The other problem is, Soumya, your question is excellent, and I really admire the depth of your thought. I hope I am not complicating it and making it too complicated for you to understand.
No, sir, not at all.
I try my best to make it simple. You know, we have a wrong definition of feeling itself. We think feeling is about being very happy. Yeah. And we have a wrong definition of happiness also. We think somebody who's like, ha 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 ha, all the time is happy. Maybe he's a psycho. You understand? Yeah. Some of us have a wrong definition of peace. We say, I am feeling peace. You know that many of these people who are mentally ill, they are totally peaceful. Yeah. Please understand, we have a wrong definition of peace or joy or feeling. The experience that God gives us has a spiritual dimension and a spiritual feeling. So we need to understand, number one, we are not just physical and mental, we are also spiritual. So experiencing God starts with a spiritual feeling. And that spiritual feeling can be accepted only if you start making your life spiritual, which includes spending time in prayer, which includes reading the word of God. Once you start that is when you start walking into the ocean, start going deeper into the ocean. Some of us, I can tell you, I was like, Soumya, this is very interesting. And I really love this question. So I can give this answer from my experience. I used to go to the retreats like this. I'll take your ocean experience. I used to go to the retreat, stand at the shore. Okay. And I used to pray. And you know what my prayer was? God, you come, but not full. God, you can enter into my life, but I will not enter into the ocean. That deal does not work with God, unfortunately. You need to give yourself to God. You need to take an action. And God respects the freedom of choice, so you have to do it. So it's a wonderful question, Soumya. I would say take one day at a time, and you will understand how beautiful this ocean is. And you can go to history, and I can prove to you, saints, so many people. There is a guarantee. Jesus is the only person proven in history to be God, proven. You go to Holy Land, you will know. So give it a chance. Yeah, start it. Good.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry taking long. Yeah, these questions are complicated. You need to take some time.
Yes, so we only have 5 more minutes for the event to end. So there are 4 questions. Maybe I'll say all the questions and maybe we can pick. You can pick on.
I can read. Don't worry, Soumya. Sorry, Joanna. Yeah, Joanna. I was educated. I can read. Okay. I think, sir, being in a final year, we have confusion regarding our career and future. How can spirituality help me to overcome it? Yeah. So how spirituality helps you to overcome this is, God has created us for a purpose, and our career will be connected to the purpose that God has created us. So when you are spiritual, God will reveal that purpose to you. And that's where your unnecessary confusions will be gone. Like, I give you an example. Don't be a doctor to make money. Be a doctor if you feel that God is calling you for that noble profession. Don't be an engineer so that you can, don't be a government official so that you can be corrupted. So spirituality gives you the, if you try to select your career with foggy eyes, you will not be able to see clearly. So only when spirituality becomes strong, the fog goes away and you see what you want to be. You want to be a teacher, be a teacher. You want to be, be what you want to be. And that spirituality is the only thing that can disengage unnecessary voices, unnecessary selfishness, to understand what your vocation is. I hope I'll go very fast. Yeah, sorry. These are very good questions, but I have very little time. You are absolutely amazing. Okay, thank you. From your vision and experience. Okay, thank you. Miss Megha Jacob. Okay. Sometimes we are trying to talk to this. They give us scientific and how. Okay, very good. Megha ma'am, is that you? Yeah. So.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would like to give a small example, and this is the best example to explain who the atheists are. There is a family. Okay, I'll try to run very fast. I know you have class at 2 o'clock. So, if there is a family and there are 2 kids, okay, and there are parents, okay. Now, when the kid is in grade 3, okay, and the kid goes to the father and tells the father that, and the father is a mathematician, for an example, yeah, the kid goes, a 3rd grade mathematics student goes to the mathematician PhD and tells him, I want to know everything that you know today. What will the father tell? the father will say, I would love to tell you everything I know, but it will take time. You are only in grade 3. But the atheists, they are like this kid who says that, oh, because God is not revealing everything, that means God does not love me and God does not exist. And I am going to leave the house and run away because I cannot know everything that God knows now. So when you deal with the atheists, I think the number one, we need to understand that this kid is not able to understand his father, that is God, because he wants to know everything now. So with an atheist, I think trying to debate does not work. The best thing that works with an atheist is to tell him, show him how much God loves you. Yeah. When I see an atheist, the best thing I do is I share about what God has done for me. And that is when I tell my brother who has run away from home, being so foolish, trying to understand everything that God knows within a day. I try to tell him, you know, even if though me as a brother, just like you, cannot understand God fully, I understand and experience his love every day. And we share our testimony. It's a wonderful question, ma'am, that you asked. The question that you asked is very relevant in today's times. And many young people today, they are atheists because of one reason. They want attention. I was in a college and one guy, he came up to me and he said, he's an atheist. We tried to talk. After some time, he said, I'm not an atheist. I asked him, why then you say you are an atheist? He said, when I say I'm an atheist, people pay attention. People love me. Even my mother, who doesn't care about me, when I say I'm an atheist, spends a lot of time with me. So, I would say all they need is love. Yeah, give them love. So they will understand. Good. I am so sorry to take your time. Yeah, I think I have sister and ma'am. I'm very sorry. I think it's one. Yeah. Good. I would have taken the last question also, but I get so angry.
Georgie, you can answer that last question also.
Okay. Thank you, sister. It happens with me. Some days I attend mass, and by the end of the day, when my mother asks me to come for family prayer, I get so angry and irritated and ask why and all. Okay. So basically, I don't know the details of that what is happening inside there, but all I can say is our parents are also human beings. Yeah. When you become a parent, you will understand. Yeah. How difficult it is to journey your children in faith. So number one, if as a parent, I can tell you is that what they want is that you get the best in life. And when they know that God is the best thing that can happen in your life, they will constantly encourage you for mass, for family prayer, for reading the Bible. They will keep on encouraging you. And that is really, I can tell you, my mom, I used to be very rebellious with my mother. I can just tell you. My mother was used to constantly tell me, pray, go for retreats. And I still remember, I am very sad to say this. Once I told my mother, look at the other mothers. They are partying. They are showing, my home was so strict, there was no cable TV also. So I used to tell my mother, only Doordarshan. You know why it's called Doordarshan? If you see from short distance, you'll break the TV. That's how great those sessions were. Anyways, I'm nothing against Doordarshan, but I'm just saying that. So I used to tell my mom, and my mom used to say the greatest investment we can do in your life, George, is God. And now I understand that my mother made a great decision, very important decision. In my house, there was no breakfast without prayer. And my mother used to always say, first, I used to go to run and read the newspaper. My mother would say, first good news, then bad news. And I used to tell my mother, what is this whole house is like a retreat center. And now I know, as a parent, she made great sacrifices. I am today who I am because of my mother, who took a priority for God in my life, because she knew she can give me the best education. She can give me the best things in life. But without God, all that is a waste. So I understand, Angel, and I can say that you have a very loving mother. And I just would say that she's doing that because she loves you. And God is using her because he loves you. Okay. So thank you, Angel. It's a very good question. Is there any way to get away from this irritation? The only way to get away from irritation is to pray. Be peaceful. Sit for 2 minutes, then you will realize that many of the things that you tell your parents is absolute nonsense. Like I used to tell my father, you don't know. He knows. I used to tell my mother, how difficult my class is. You ask a mother 9 months of pregnancy, what is difficulty? Then you will know. I used to tell my mother, yeah, you don't know anything. You have a ready-made food and you say you are irritated. This food is not good. You cook, you will know how difficult it is to cook for all these kids. Yeah, all the demanding kids you have. So only way to go away from irritation is take a break, sit some time, and you will think about all the great things that your parents. There are parents who dump their kids in the bin after they are born. Our parents have been doing so much more. Rather than start finding faults with them, I think we should respect them. And you take a break. Don't respond immediately. Yeah, have positive debates, not aggressive debates. Good. So thank you. I think that's the best. We are short of time. These are wonderful questions, but thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Like whatever you said truly inspired us. You could see like a big broad smile on all our faces. So you have truly inspired us to enjoy every step of our Christian life. So thank you to you. And now I would like to call upon Angel Biju, our second year student, to extend the vote of thanks.
Romans chapter 12 verses 2. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. The best and beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt by heart. Thank you is one such prayer among them. I consider it a great privilege to propose a vote of thanks to all the dignitaries who have witnessed it as a memorable and successful event. I would like to thank our speaker for today's session, Mr. George Devasi, for such a delightful session and for all words of wisdom that radiated a source of energy within us. We will ever remain grateful to you, and we thank you for being with us today. And I'm sure that these words have filled each one of us with a different perspective altogether. I would also like to thank the hosts of our program, Joanne and Helena, for guiding us through the program. I would like to thank our beloved principal, respected Dr. Sandra, for being with us today. Heartfelt thanks goes to all our teachers who are our second parents, who always stand by us, guide us, lead us, and motivate us. We feel proud and thank you for making us feel happy with your presence to this function. An event of this dimension cannot happen overnight. The wheels start rolling days and days in advance. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated students, committee, and volunteers. I cannot thank everyone enough for the involvement they have shown and the willingness they have expressed to take on the completion of tasks beyond their comfort zones. Last but not least, I thank all the students for showing the interest in this program. Once again, thank you very much to all who have joined us today here.
Thank you, Angel Biju. It was truly such an eventful and purposeful time spent. Thank you, dear audience. I would request you all to kindly fill the feedback forms which have been provided to you in the chat box, and the recording of the event will be uploaded to the GMC channel soon. Once again, thank you and have a great day ahead.
It would be shared on the iCuff channel. Small correction. Not the GMC
Sorry,
channel.
on the iCuff channel.
So thank you, George.
Yeah, thank you, sister. It is a privilege. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We will look forward for more sessions with you.
Yeah, keep in your prayers, sister. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
your management is a big inspiration for me, even from my town. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay. So it's only a 1 hour because we have classes back and forth. That's the only reason. Otherwise, we could have